Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, Halloween. These days all have common factors which unite them. Now, some of you may be thinking, duh, they're all holidays. But I propose to you a different thing. And you would be completely correct in assuming that they're all holidays because, well, they are. But there is a common thread of chocolate. Chocolate Santas, chocolate bunnies, chocolate flowers, and just plain chocolate are seen throughout stores during the holiday time. But how does this delicious treat come to be? My name is Sam Torres, and I'm here to inform you about how chocolate is made. Chocolate has had a very slow and time-consuming process, involving many steps to get to the delicious treat we know today. The recipe first started out during the ancient Aztec and Maya civilizations, where they developed the current refinement process that is still used today for the cocoa beans. The second most important step is the use of a hydraulic press. This press's purpose is to separate the cocoa powder from the cocoa butter using pressure. The last step in the chocolate making process is the conking process. A conking machine is kind of like a giant stirrer. You have, say, your hot chocolate, ironically, where the powder doesn't always dissolve if you just drop it in there. But you sit there and you stir it, and with the heat, it'll combine and make a nice even mixture. This is kind of what a conking machine does on a bigger scale. So the combination of these three steps lead to the chocolate that we know and love today. When most people think about making chocolate, the first thing that comes to mind is the cocoa bean. According to Smithsonian.com, the Aztec and Maya people were the first people to come up with the refinement process for the cocoa bean. The Aztec and Maya civilization, located in what is now southern-day Mexico and South America, northern part of South America. The cocoa bean was considered valuable in these civilizations, with some historians believing it was currency. You could take a cocoa bean to the store, and a good merchant would be able to identify the type and tell you what you could buy for that specific cocoa bean. But these cocoa beans were mostly used among the high class, and they were thought they were looking for a way to produce alcohol. So they had the bean, so naturally they cracked it open. Well, cocoa isn't necessarily alcoholic, so they take it, and once they crack them open, they just kind of left them there. But leaving them there starts a natural process within the cocoa bean that actually ferments the cocoa bean. They would then scoop out the inside of those beans and roast them. So they heat them up and remove the shell. From that point, they would then grind up the cocoa beans and add them to hot water, where they would be drunk mostly. And this is pretty unchanged for a couple hundred years, up until the Industrial Revolution. Now, chocolate in this liquid state contains two major components: cocoa powder and cocoa butter. In order to make the chocolate bar we know today, such as this, we must adjust the amount of cocoa butter in the cocoa. But how can we do something like this? With a machine known as the hydraulic press. According to vanhouten.com, created in 1828 by a man named Conrad Van Houten, the hydraulic press was invented for the purpose of splitting the cocoa bean into the cocoa powder and the cocoa butter. Before we can get to that step, the chocolate mixture must first be heated, creating what is known as cocoa liquor, dating back to that search of alcoholic beverages. That mixture is then placed within the hydraulic press. The temperature of the liquor needs to be heated depending on what type of chocolate is desired. So with every different type of chocolate and different mixture, different heat is required. The hydraulic press then uses pressure to squeeze the liquid through sheets, which allows the cocoa powder to separate from the cocoa butter, as the cocoa powder is much smaller than the cocoa butter. This allows the fat content of the cocoa powder to drop from about 54% to around 27%, according to an article about chocolate. The byproducts of this process are as dense cocoa powder cake and solid cocoa butter. With these two products, the cocoa products are finally ready to actually become a chocolate bar. The cocoa butter is then reintroduced. along with other ingredients such as milk powder and sugar in a process known as conking. Created by Rodolphe Lindt in 1879 of Lindt chocolate. The conking machine was created for the purpose of creating a smoother chocolate bar. Without the conking process, we got very thick and just undesirable chocolate. It looked good, but when you ate it, it just felt clumpy and gross. So a conking machine heats the cocoa powder, the cocoa butter, and other ingredients, melting everything together. Additionally, a conch machine contains a roller which remains in constant motion, helping to mix the cocoa powder and cocoa butter. It prevents clumping within the system and just coats all of the cocoa powder with the cocoa butter, creating for a nice smooth texture. The chocolate is then poured into molds and packaged, creating the finished chocolate bars such as this. That's how you get the nice squares that come out on your Hershey bars. The long and lengthy process of chocolate may seem a little repetitive with the constant, you take it, you grind it, you let it sit, you heat it, you grind it, and repeat. But with something requiring so much chemistry and precision to create, the refinement of the cocoa bean has remained pretty unchanged throughout the years. Hundreds of years have gone by and the process remains the same. Nothing has changed with the exception of the addition of sugar. The cocoa made from the refinement process is heated and then added to the hydraulic press where the cocoa butter is separated from the cocoa powder. Lastly, the cocoa butter is reintroduced to the cocoa powder in specific rations to create the liquid form of chocolate. Through this process, chocolate is made into the bar known throughout the world today.